we move on to the story of the day, and before we get into the Tron BitTorrent airdrop and token sale and all that, I just wanted to talk about this article that came out, and it's called "Why I Believe Crypto is a $278 trillion opportunity." Now, this is with Anya Nova. She is a crypto economist with Power Ledger. You guys may be familiar with them. And she explained how growing up in 1990s Russia shaped her belief that cryptocurrencies could one day become a multi-trillion-dollar asset class. Now, she says that she experienced insane hyperinflation during her childhood and realized that money is a resource that government controls and occasionally mismanages. So, the Russian government printed too much of it and devalued it right before my eyes, she says. I can remember my mom sent me to buy a loaf of bread from a local store. The day before, one loaf was the equivalent of 60 cents. The next day, it was $3.40. That is clearly not acceptable, right? So, fast forward to 2019, and Miss Nova can't understand why people aren't taking Bitcoin more seriously. She says, I hear Bitcoin, she says people says that it'll never replace fiat because it's not real. But fiat money is somehow real? So she says, this rings false to me. If you've ever held a large bundle of worthless cash in your hand, you'll know the feeling. Just think about that kid in Venezuela literally using piles of money as a ladder to climb into the back of the truck, okay? You guys remember that video? So also, Miss Nova says she has watched the evolution closely from Bitcoin to ICOs to STOs. She says the real reason that she thinks we're seeing the insurgence of security tokens is because the regulators, such as the SEC, are cracking down on projects that have not complied with the existing fundraising regulations. She says, to be clear, a token sale that complies with the fundraising regulations is not a better investment compared to ones that don't. A good investment is one where the right team is solving the right problem at the right time, regardless of whether the investment itself complies with capital raising regulations or not. So, you know, for people that like to throw around the term shitcoin, just because it's a STO doesn't mean it can't be a shitcoin STO, okay? Just gonna throw that out there. But anyway, she says that security tokens will not democratize finance and lift millions out of poverty right away, but they will transform how we live. There's just so much to tokenize. So $217 trillion in real estate, $55 trillion in equities, $6 trillion in gold. I thought it was higher than that, but anyway, that's where we get the $278 trillion opportunity, right? That's the number that we came up with. But here's the thing. As people begin to tokenize land and buildings and things of that nature, which they're going to, and they are, okay, whether or not you want them to, they're going to do it. It's going to allow them to learn to transact with these different tokens, whether it be on the Tron, blockchain or the Ethereum blockchain or whatever. The fact is that they're going to become comfortable using these tokens. And as they become more comfortable, well, the existing tokens like Bitcoin and all these other guys, right, are probably going to reap the benefits as well. So she also goes on to say that, if security tokens had existed back when she was a kid, privatization would have been the best use case to demonstrate the attributes of transparency and immutability that we love in blockchain. So, anyone with access to the blockchain explorer, such as Etherscan, would have been able to verify that a particular factory or mine site or farm was fractionalized into a fixed number of fractions, that each fraction was accounted for, and most importantly, that the fractions were fairly distributed among all citizens as was intended. Back with the hyperinflation, billions of dollars were stolen via botched privatization of public assets like factories, mines, and farms. So instead, because the process was murky, it was abused, and the ownership of the country's assets ended up in the hands of the few, giving rise to the emergence of the oligarchs and some of the world's worst financial inequality that we had seen ever. So just wanted to point that out, guys, and this is why she believes that the cryptocurrency, totally could be a $278 trillion opportunity, because as we begin to tokenize all these real-world assets, the space will inevitably, or could potentially, become, the go-to standard of tokenization. So I just wanted to drop that. I thought that was really good news, guys. Now, let's